Imagine standing at the crossroads of faith and finance, where a single decision could determine not just the wealth in your pocket, but the weight on your soul. For centuries, Muslims have asked whether gold, silver, and paper were permissible under divine law. But today, the world demands an answer to a question no scholar of the past ever faced. Is a currency that exists only in the unseen digital realm, mined from code and secured by mathematics, halal or haram? This is not just about Bitcoin. It is about the future of money, the ethics of wealth, and the destiny of a generation that will either be liberated by technology or enslaved by it. Some see Bitcoin as the great equalizer, a tool that empowers the powerless and breaks the chains of corrupt systems. Others warn it is a dangerous illusion, a trap of speculation, a mirage of wealth that could collapse without mercy. But beyond the headlines and the hype lies a deeper truth, one that challenges every believer to ask not just what is allowed, but what is right. Tonight, we are not merely exploring a currency. We are confronting a question that will echo through history, testing the boundaries of faith, law, and human ambition. Stay with me, because by the end of this journey, you will never look at money or morality the same way again. Bitcoin did not emerge as just another financial trend. It was born from the idea of challenging traditional money and central banking systems that have controlled economies for centuries. Introduced in 2009 by the mysterious figure known as Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin presented itself as a decentralized form of currency, one that does not depend on governments, banks, or third-party institutions to function. It is powered by blockchain technology, a system of digital records that is transparent, immutable, and accessible to anyone with an internet connection. What started as an experiment among computer scientists and libertarians has now grown into a global financial phenomenon with billions of dollars in daily transactions and millions of users worldwide. Its rise has disrupted traditional finance, creating both opportunities and fears across the world. For some, Bitcoin is the future of money, a digital gold that empowers individuals with true ownership of their wealth, immune to inflation and political manipulation. For others, it is a dangerous bubble, a speculative gamble that thrives on uncertainty and attracts criminals. Yet, whether one praises or criticizes it, Bitcoin has forced governments, regulators, and financial institutions to pay attention, and it has sparked new debates about the very nature of money itself. For Muslims, this debate is even more profound, as it raises religious and ethical questions about whether engaging with such a currency is permissible under Islamic law. The rapid adoption of Bitcoin in countries with struggling economies and unstable currencies shows how people are desperately searching for financial independence and security, and this only amplifies the urgency of finding an Islamic verdict on its use. The world is shifting toward digital assets, and Bitcoin has become the symbol of this transformation, making its status in Islam an unavoidable and deeply important question. In Islam, money has never been viewed merely as a tool of exchange. It carries moral weight, ethical implications, and responsibility. Traditional Islamic principles are built upon the idea that wealth must serve justice, fairness, and balance within society. The Quran and Sunnah emphasize that money should be tied to something of real, intrinsic value, which is why gold and silver historically served as the foundation of Islamic finance. These metals were not only scarce and durable, but they also held a universal acceptance that protected communities from deception and exploitation. Within Shariah, the use of money is guided by strict rules that prohibit riba, or interest, which creates unjust gain and exploitation of others. Any currency or financial practice that enables unfair advantage, uncertainty, or speculation is viewed with suspicion because Islam demands transparency and stability in transactions. The concept of halal wealth is directly tied to how money circulates within society. It should not merely accumulate in the hands of the rich, but must flow in ways that promote equity, fairness, and social well-being. Zakat, charity, and fair trade are at the heart of this vision, ensuring that money becomes a tool of mercy rather than oppression. In this framework, new forms of money like Bitcoin create difficult questions. If money is supposed to represent real value and stability, how do we interpret a digital asset with no physical existence, extreme volatility, and a system that operates outside state regulation? The concern is not only whether it can function as currency, but also whether it aligns with Islam's insistence on fairness and the avoidance of harm. Understanding these principles is essential before any Shariah ruling on Bitcoin can be reached, as Islam places morality at the center of economic life, not just profit or innovation. One of the most pressing issues that Shariah scholars debate when it comes to Bitcoin is its extreme volatility and speculative nature. Unlike gold, silver, or even traditional fiat currencies that are backed by governments and central banks, Bitcoin exists in a digital ecosystem that is largely unregulated and highly unstable. Its price can soar dramatically in 1 week and collapse the next, creating an environment that encourages speculation rather than stable trade. In Islam, transactions that involve gharar, or excessive uncertainty and risk, are considered impermissible because they open the door to exploitation and injustice. For instance, if someone invests in Bitcoin hoping for rapid profit but loses everything due to a sudden market crash, this resembles gambling more than fair trade. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, warned against transactions based on excessive uncertainty, such as selling what one does not own or engaging in contracts where outcomes are unclear. Bitcoin's market behavior mirrors these concerns, as its value is driven more by speculation, hype, and manipulation than by any intrinsic worth or stable economic foundation. Critics argue that it lacks the stability necessary to be classified as real money under Islamic principles, since money in Islam is meant to preserve value, facilitate trade, and avoid harm. At the same time, some scholars counter that volatility is not unique to Bitcoin. Even fiat currencies can experience inflation, devaluation, or collapse under political or economic crises. The difference, however, lies in scale. Bitcoin's swings are so severe that they create a climate of risk-taking that closely resembles gambling, which is strictly prohibited. This leaves scholars divided. Is Bitcoin a legitimate currency with growing pains, or is it inherently speculative and therefore closer to haram than halal? This unresolved tension remains at the core of the debate. The fourth keynote focuses on the ethical concerns tied to how Bitcoin is used and the moral consequences of its adoption. While Bitcoin was initially celebrated as a decentralized form of currency that empowers individuals and removes control from governments and banks, its anonymous nature has also made it a tool for illicit activities, from money laundering to financing illegal trade. The untraceable nature of certain cryptocurrency transactions has raised alarm among Sharia scholars who emphasize the principle of justice and accountability in financial dealings. Islam places great importance on transparency and honesty in trade, ensuring that wealth is not used as a means to exploit or harm others. The Quran warns against enabling corruption on earth, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, emphasized that wealth should circulate in ways that benefit society rather than destroy it. If Bitcoin becomes a channel for injustice, its use would contradict these ethical foundations. On the other hand, advocates argued that any form of money can be misused, whether gold, cash, or digital currency, and that the fault lies not in the medium itself, but in the way people choose to apply it. They highlight that blockchain technology, the backbone of Bitcoin, actually promotes transparency because every transaction is recorded on a public ledger. This duality creates a complex question for Islamic scholars. Should Bitcoin be judged by the misuse of some or by the potential benefits it offers when handled ethically? For Muslims seeking halal financial opportunities, this becomes a matter of intention and application. Using Bitcoin responsibly for lawful trade may align with Islamic principles, but exploiting its anonymity for harm or injustice certainly does not. This tension between potential benefit and possible abuse continues to shape the debate over Bitcoin's ethical standing in Islam. The fifth keynote addresses the issue of volatility and uncertainty in Bitcoin, which is one of the most debated points among Shariah scholars when determining its permissibility. In Islam, financial transactions are expected to be fair, transparent, and free from excessive speculation or gambling, which is referred to as gahara in Maisir. Bitcoin, by its very nature, is highly volatile, with prices that can skyrocket or crash within hours, often without any clear economic justification. This unpredictable movement attracts many people who treat Bitcoin not as a currency, but as a speculative investment, hoping to get rich quickly, which mirrors the characteristics of gambling. From an Islamic perspective, wealth should be earned through productive work, trade, or investment that carries real economic value rather than through risky speculation where one person's gain often comes at another's devastating loss. Critics argue that this volatility undermines Bitcoin's status as a stable medium of exchange, making it unsuitable as a currency under Shariah principles. However, proponents counter this by pointing out that volatility is not unique to Bitcoin. Many fiat currencies, stock markets, and even commodities like oil or gold experience sharp fluctuations, especially in times of crisis. They argue that volatility may decrease as adoption grows and that early stages of any financial innovation naturally come with instability. For Muslims, this raises a deeper question. Does the potential instability automatically classify Bitcoin as haram? Or can it still be halal if used carefully and with awareness of the risks involved? Shariah emphasizes the balance between risk and fairness. So while investment in Bitcoin might not be inherently forbidden, using it as a tool for reckless gambling or exploiting others through market manipulation would clearly violate Islamic ethics. This makes volatility a key point of caution for Muslim investors. The sixth keynote focuses on the importance of intention and usage in determining whether Bitcoin can be considered halal or haram under Shariah. In Islamic jurisprudence, the purpose behind an action carries as much weight as the action itself, and this principle applies to financial dealings as well. Bitcoin, like any form of wealth, can be used for both ethical and unethical purposes. If it is used to facilitate illegal trade, money laundering, or exploitative practices, then it directly contradicts Sharia values and would fall under the category of haram. However, if Bitcoin is used as a genuine means of storing value, conducting transparent transactions, or empowering communities without access to traditional banking, then its usage leans toward permissibility. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, emphasized that actions are judged by intentions, which means a Muslim's purpose in using Bitcoin becomes a decisive factor. For example, someone who invests in Bitcoin purely to gamble with its price swings engages in an impermissible act resembling Maisir, while someone who uses to send money across borders with lower costs and fewer barriers may be engaging in something beneficial. This duality makes Bitcoin unique because, unlike inherently haram commodities such as alcohol or interest-based loans, Bitcoin is more of a neutral tool whose ruling depends on how it is applied. Scholars therefore stress that Muslims must exercise caution, ensuring that their involvement with Bitcoin does not lead to harm, exploitation, or reckless speculation, but instead aligns with Islamic values of justice, fairness, and social good. Ultimately, the permissibility of Bitcoin is not just about the currency itself, but about the ethical framework within which it is used, making intention and usage the ultimate deciding factors for its ruling. In the end, the question of whether Bitcoin is halal or haram is not answered by a single fatwa or rigid declaration, but rather through a deep understanding of its nature, its impact, and the way it is used. Shariah does not simply judge wealth by its form, but by its function and the justice it brings or the harm it causes. Bitcoin has the potential to liberate the unbanked, protect wealth from exploitation, and open doors to a new era of financial inclusion. Yet, it also carries risk of speculation, volatility, and misuse. The truth is that this digital currency is neither inherently halal nor harame. It is a neutral tool, one that becomes blessed or forbidden by the intentions of the heart and the actions of the hand. Every Muslim who ventures into this world of cryptocurrency must pause and reflect, asking whether their pursuit aligns with the values of fairness, transparency, and responsibility that our faith demands. The Shariah perspective reminds us that wealth is not the end, but a means, not a master, but a trust. Whether Bitcoin becomes a source of barakah or regret depends on the path chosen. So as you carry forward these insights, may wisdom guide your decisions, and may your choices always align with the principles of justice and integrity. Thank you for giving your time, your attention, and your open heart to this important discussion. May your journey, whether in the digital world or the real one, always be blessed with clarity, purpose, and success. Good luck, and may peace and prosperity be with you always.